This is Electric Universe Eyes, and today I'm going to narrate The Great Comet Venus by David Talbott, 1997. Section titled, The Myth of the Comet Venus. To establish the co-incidence of cometary themes relating to Venus is not to end the subject, but simply to open the door to a new vantage point, one in which the researcher enjoys the freedom to consider unusual possibilities. Do the Aztec and Mayan codices, the inscriptions on stone, the oral histories and towering monuments speak for events no longer occurring in the skies? The unexpected symbolic parallels give the researcher a new way of perceiving his subject. Grant the possibility of a world-threatening comet Venus, frightening enough and destructive enough to substantiate man's deepest fears, and the culture will no longer look the same. Re-envisioning the ancient world in this way will not remove the role of magic and superstition in the myths, nor will it soften the profoundly barbaric components of native rituals, nor will it give to the myths and rites the loftier wisdom we so often seek in ancient words. What it will do is lend the missing perspective, providing new frameworks for understanding the experiential roots of the culture. The candid researcher must first admit that even the most capable authorities, when considering the core of pre-Columbian thought and culture, find that convincing explanations elude them. Can modern scholars, for example, really claim to understand the cloud of anxiety that hung over Mexican cultures, an anxiety only heightened by the arrival of the Spaniards? Nothing in that civilization's monumental splendor could hide this apprehension. But to expose its roots, the researcher must be willing to follow the clues rather than dismiss them just because they seem out of touch with the world we know. These clues will lead inescapably past the cover of cultural anxiety to its roots in celestial terror. The sensitive chronicler, Fray Diego Duran, writing just a generation after Columbus, recounted a story about the great emperor Moctezuma concerning an experience prior to the arrival of the conquistadors. It happened that Moctezuma had received word of a comet hanging over Mexico at sunrise. Though the report did not come from his personal astrologers, he was so filled with fear that he thought his death would arrive within the hour. Moctezuma then asked the king of neighboring Texcoco to tell him what the comet meant. The answer was as Moctezuma must have feared. It is an ill omen for our kingdoms. Terrible, frightful things will come upon them. In all our lands and provinces, there will be great calamities and misfortunes. Not a thing will be left standing. Death will dominate the land. All our dominion will be lost. On hearing this news, Moctezuma wept bitterly, saying, O Lord of all created things, O mighty gods who gives life or death, why have you decreed that many kings shall have reigned proudly, but that my fate is to witness the unhappy destruction of Mexico? It would be senseless to attempt to isolate or explain Moctezuma's fears outside a cultural tradition far more telling than the individual biographies of kings. No king in earlier times could free himself from the mythical and ritual contexts of kingship. And in the overarching symbols of the power and fate of kings, one encounters invariably the archaic language of the comet in Moctezuma's day. Duran's modern translators write, It is curious to note that the Aztecs looked upon comets as ill omens, just as the contemporary Europeans regarded them as signs of war, famine, and pestilence. Among the Aztecs, comets and earthquakes, which were always carefully marked down each year in the hieroglyphic manuscripts, were always considered omens of misfortune, notes Jacques Sustel. In our investigation, we have grouped comet and meteor symbolism together because mythically the two are synonymous. Comets are referred to in Quiche, Highlands Maya, as Uge Chu'umil, tail of the star, and are considered omens of massive pestilence, observes Barbara Tedlock. Throughout the Mayan area, meteors are thought to be evil omens forecasting sickness, war, and death. The Mesoamerican theme resonates with a global fear that no comparative study can ignore. Around the world, the comet signaled the approach of doomsday, and it mattered not how quietly and unobtrusively the visitor made its appearance, because the archetypal image did not originate in the little wisps of gas that periodically adorn our sky. With the rarest of exceptions, the cometary omen was ominous, the two English words being derived from the same Latin root. For the ancient stargazers, the comet was the fear-inspiring portent of disaster, the ill-omened star. And thus does our word disaster Evil star echo the ancient fear of a star, comet, presiding over universal catastrophe, another word reflecting the evil aster or star, the comet of world mythology. But this brief note on language of the evil star does not even scratch the surface when it comes to the depth of man's memory of a world-ending cometary disaster.